Hi, everybody. We are starting this BoF to talk about geographical diversity. Well, let me explain why I asked to do this BoF. During the last DPL election, I did a question for the candidates about what they think about improving more people from countries outside Europe and North America join to events in this region, in basically the North Hemisphere, and what they think about we can do here in the South Hemisphere to improve the Debian, to have more Debian developers contributing to Debian, contributors in general, and especially Debian developers, because I, we can see that there are many nice events in Europe, like mini DebConfs, and I believe you have just a little number of mini DebConfs outside Europe and North America, especially Europe, outside Europe. Um, and it, probably the people, the developers and the contributors for the countries on South Hemisphere would you like to join these events in Europe, especially Europe, because most of the developers, Debian developers, are there. And in the other thing that I saw is most of developers, this big number of developers in Europe usually don't come to DebConfs outside Europe. So I think maybe you have a problem. I believe you have a problem with that. That is how improve Debian outside the North Hemisphere, and what you can do here in our countries, and what we can do to join with the Debian developers there. I invited some to come here to help us in this debate because now he is the DPL, so and he's a Debian developer a long time, I believe. So we can discuss about if I'm wrong or not, if this is just a wrong impression about this kind of discussion, or if you really need do something to have more contributors in the South Hemisphere. So, someone would like to start talking? Yeah. I think it's good to say where are you from. Yes.
Yeah. Hello. I am from Argentina, from a small city named La Rioja. I make several presentations and talk to try to promote the free and open source use. And I think that the first principal problem with the people and students is that they want to get money, and they believe that free software is equal to gratis. So I think the Debian, like a big organization, must be promote the creation of local teams, local group, or make more mini DebConf in other cities. So to try to promote the free and open source uses.
Cool. Yeah, because of Debian, I have opportunity to travel 3 times to outside in the last 1 year. I went to Taiwan for DebConf. I went to Brussels to join the video team Sprint and Fosden. And I went to Hamburg in Germany to join a mini DebConf. It was a great experience. Go there to join Debian community. Um, but I know I know that it's very expensive pay for flight tickets to fly from South America to Europe, for instance, and I don't know how we can deal with that. If it, unfortunately, if Debian pay, for instance, for me go to Europe, they probably will pay. They could pay 10 Debian developers inside Europe to travel around there. So sometimes it's a little embarrassing for us, even to ask a reimbursement to travel to there. Sometimes it's a little we can feel a little shame to ask this kind of thing because you say, wow, it's a lot of money that Debian will have to spend with me, will need to spend with me. Somebody else like to talk something?
I'm Henrique from Japan.
Cool.
So maybe the one guy in this room from Asia. It takes 40 hours. We Japanese Debian people don't have the kind of the mini DebConf, but we have the strong local community because we hold the monthly meeting to study what is Debian and how to do with it with Debian for I guess more than 10 years. So we have that local meeting in Tokyo and Osaka more than 10 years. It's great for the local community. To go Debian conference is, sometimes expensive, and we Debian have the limited budget. It's a fact, but we can hold some local meeting, and we can share the knowledge and the experience, and sometimes problem. Yeah, you can share your problem, and some people from that the team, our local community, can go with some questions and then go to DebConf to exchange the knowledge or information or problem with other people in DebConf. So, in my opinion, you should hold the monthly meeting if you can. If there's the problem to go there face to face, then to do some video meeting for them, and some people maybe sometimes one or two guy or women can go to DebConf, and they get some experience at there, and they bring back to the local community, and they say DebConf is so nice and a great experience, and maybe they share some kind of motivation to join the Debian. Yeah, you can do some local meeting. Please start with that. And I also like some columns to the Japanese tech magazine about Debian for almost 6 years. So you should try to promote Debian on the local media, like some magazines, books, and the website. And maybe it's a great experience for you. And maybe you can get a newbie for that. Some people, some medias talk to you about the Red Hat and the Ubuntu, and they ignore Debian, in my experience. So we should promote on some medias.
Cool.
That's all.
Thanks. Anybody else? Here in Brazil, we had on the last 3 years, we had mini DebConfs, three mini DebConfs here in Curitiba. What was good because after mini DebConfs, we could learn about how to do it, and now we are doing the DebConf. So yeah, it's a good idea. Usually, you have some local meetings and mini DebConfs, and in this, and I think that is good again, if we can have more Debian developers from outside, from the other countries, because sometimes like here we had some Debian developers, but we can have 3 or 4 Debian developers locally in the event. So sometimes it's good to have people from outside, from the other countries, to bring experience, to bring more information that we can't have here, and join the local mini DebConfs. I think it is good too, but we need people come to join the mini DebConfs too, because like in the last edition we have three guys from Europe, Stefano and Holger, two, right? Yes, two. Actually, Stefano is not from Europe, but he lives in, yeah, almost in Europe.
San Francisco.
Yeah, some place here around. So it was very nice because they could come and do some talks for us. We could talk about video team with Stefano, for instance. So it's basically this. Anybody else? Yep, have to.
Well,
Pode falar. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. I'm Kobe, and I'm from Suzano, São Paulo, here in Brazil. And I do believe that we need to make our local communities stronger in order to have more support from outside. I know that the community here in Curitiba is very strong. You guys are doing such a great job. And leaving this conference, I would like to make things happen back there in Suzano as well. And of course, I'll need your help for that. But I still think that making our local communities stronger will have more effect on bringing more developers to that, more contributors as well. So why not then having mini comps in São Paulo, which is closer to me. But that's the thing, making local communities stronger. This will bring more developers to Debian. I believe that.
So my name's David Bremner, and I'm from North America. So I'm the other side of this, I guess. But I just wanted to make a comment or actually ask a couple of questions. So I've been involved with bursaries for DebConf now for about 7 years. And so 2 questions keep coming up for me. One is, do we think that bringing people to DebConf who are not very active contributors yet is an effective way to get them involved in Debian? And that's a complicated question, and I don't expect a complete answer now. But one thing would be great if someone had the spoons and the ability to look at some outcomes of bringing people to DebConf and writing them up. And so if we think that's a good thing to do, then we can make that budget bigger. So this year we had $10,000 for newcomers and diversity in general, which is using the same money for a lot of different purposes. I think, I'll be honest, I think there's skepticism among the community as a whole as to how effective this is sometimes at helping people contribute to Debian, or to put it more cynically, about helping Debian get contributors. Right? I mean, so those 2 sides of the same coin. But one question, and if people want to give me answers here, that's great, but I understand it's a want people to think about and help us with as a project. The other is, as a bursaries referee, I believe, but I mean, I could be wrong, that where people are from doesn't affect how they get ranked in the bursaries process. Now, that's again a difficult question because people sometimes don't express themselves well in English. The process is in English. So they may not, people might need help to write convincing bursaries application. And in fact, some native speakers need help as well because they're just bad at writing bursaries applications. So that's, I know I'm taking up a lot of time. So just one final point is that we have a fairly formalized process for ranking contributors, and the amount of the request currently does not play a role in that ranking. So I think that you could see that as positive if you're from some place which is expensive to travel from.
Yeah, about your first question, I believe it's very important, but I would like to discuss here about not how to bring newcomers, about the quest about newcomers, but I would like to talk more about people that are contributing, like developers and real contributors, because I think there are two different debates that are how to have more new contributors, more to have newcomers, and the other debate is how to help the people that are already are contributing, people that are developers already are developers, to go to organize local events like mini DebConfs, or to go to mini DebConfs in other counts, like I said before, especially in North America and Europe. Because I think we have to think in two steps, different steps. One is for newcomers, how to help newcomers, and I think this is not a main discussion. I think this should be not the main discussion here about newcomers, but how to help people that already are contributing and already are developers to join with other developers in Europe, in North America. I think I'm not right, but I'd like to discuss this situation, that because for instance you have many developers here in Brazil, but it's not usually, there's not common people from here go to Europe, join events there. We are doing our events here, like mini DebConfs, like I said before, we did 3, but I see that we don't have many. I'm trying to learn the word in English. Like it's not internship. It's like change experience between the local community, the local developers, with developers that unfortunately don't come to our mini DebConfs, even to our DebConf here, organized here. More opinions? Some?
I think it might be worth taking some time to try and understand what our goals are, right? Because, you know, why do we want people from, you know, do we want to bring in more experienced developers, say from Europe or North America, to events elsewhere? Or do we want to build up the experience of the people in Brazil so that they can be their own experienced developers? Why do we, basically, I think that more generally we're talking about, you know, we've got DebConf itself, we've got many DebConfs, and we're talking about, you know, sending people from various places to places. And I don't think anyone's been talking about what our goals are with doing all of that, or what benefits we hope to have. What is the point of a mini DebConf? What is the point of the global DebConf? How do these all fit together to create a plan that is going to grow a vibrant Debian?
Someone have an opinion about that? Nobody?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I suspect that one of the goals of DebConf itself is to get people from all over the world and to try and get uniformity, or at least not in the sense that we're all going to agree with each other, but the sense that we all feel like we're part of one Debian. I suspect that I'd like to confirm. I think we're agreed that that's a big goal of DebConf, and that we want to get a cross section of people from all around the world at DebConf.
I was thinking another thing that is actually in Brazil we don't have developers join the core team of Debian, if I remember, developers that live in Brazil. I don't know why, but I would like to see more Brazilians, Debian developers Brazilians, join the core team and helping other teams than just doing packages or translations in general. I don't know if this has happened because we are not in touch personally with the other people from outside. But I don't know this has happened in other countries too, that have a lot of they have some Debian developers. But it seems that we don't try to join some teams, just package teams.
What do you mean by core teams?
Sorry?
What are the core teams?
The core teams. Like DSI, FTP, and something like that. I'm not sure if this has happened because we are not in touch with people from this team personally. Yeah, sure, we can talk with them by ERC or email, mailing lists. But sometimes I believe, because I went 2 times to Europe, like I said, this year, and I could saw that it was a great experience talking to developers that I don't see usually here in Brazil. And it was a great experience for me. So I don't know if people that never do this would like to do sometimes, and why you don't do until now. Do you have some opinion about that, or everybody is okay?
So, as best I can tell, our procedures for growing our core teams are not supportive of diversity. What tends to happen is people tend to reach out to people they know when looking for new members of core teams. And unfortunately, there's a lot of research that shows that model does not lead to very diverse growth. The technical committee tried to do some other things. Like, for example, the technical committee tried to seek random nominations from people. It was a lot of work, and my personal opinion was it was not hugely successful. I think that this is a bigger diversity problem in general, that basically currently what happens is people on the core teams recruit people they know.
I thought on one thing now that has relation with what you said before, why we do mini DebConfs and DebConf. And I remember that it would be very nice if you could have sprints for the teams in countries that we have developers, but we don't have, again, countries outside Europe and North America. Maybe we should encourage the teams to do sprints. For example, let's do a sprint in Brazil, in India, in Japan, in places, in countries that we usually, the teams usually don't go. Because when people can see developers working, not just talking, do speech and talking in DebConfs, people can see developers really working in something, and maybe these people feel encouraged to join this kind of team. 3 years ago, in our first min DebConf, the Ruby team did a sprint here in Brazil, and it was very nice because we could talk with people from the Ruby team, because Antonio organized the sprint here. So it's nice to see developers working in teams locally, close to you. Even there is many sprints you can join by ERC or mailing list, but it's nice to see people working to get near from you. I think it's a way to encourage developers to join teams and maybe newcomers to join Debian when they see people working. Okay, so this team is here. The guys from the people from this team came to my country to work here. That's nice. Let me join and learn something about it. I don't know if you know why this happened. We don't have, actually, probably because people just don't want to do. But maybe you could encourage people to do this kind of work outside.
I think part of the reason why core teams are recruiting people they know is because a lot of the work that is done within core teams is based heavily on trust of each other, and so the people have to know the people that get into this team beforehand. That doesn't mean that they have to be close friends, but to some degree they have to have exposure to these people and working with them to some level beforehand, joining one of these core teams, because a fair amount of FTP work and DSA, like you mentioned, is a lot of weight on their shoulders based on trust, and that's something that's really important in these parts of the teams. So and I can understand that there's wish to get more exposure, and I think, yeah, it's something structure that it's easier to communicate with someone you somehow share the same time zone for a start. I think the teams still were looking for people from different time zones for exactly that reason, to get a more diverse geographical thing to cover more time around the day, and so that not all people of DSA are sleeping at the same time. And the way the teams are structured, maybe I'm wrong here, but sending them around the world to get to know needs a lot of more money to get them to places which are not even close to one of the members. So, but if, like you said, if someone like Antonio is organizing a Ruby sprint here in Brazil, or someone like to coordinate with one of the core teams to get something done here, I think it could work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it happened this year, or maybe just less than in previous years, which I think was very successful, was to have sprints during DebConf, because I think DebConf might be too overwhelming for newbies, and just because the project has so many different areas and different and diverse ways of contributing, for someone who just arrives, and it's just too overwhelming, and it's hard to fit in, and sometimes even choosing the talks to watch, to attend is a challenge, and it's hard for a newcomer to already do some real contribution during the conference. But when there are sprints and even BoFs are easier, like more welcoming. I think it's easier for newcomers, but work meetings. I think it's easier. I agree with Paulo that it's easier to integrate if this is thought and if there is this will. And but yeah, there's really hard to think of having sprints outside of DebConf now. Having sprints, making teams travel if there's no one from the team. So I think what could be done, like one strategy could be, if there is a team where there is someone from the north, from the global north, this person will be encouraged to bring the sprint or bring the team home instead of traveling to Europe. Mm-hmm. So that's something, a mindset. If we had this mindset so let's say you participate in the Pearl team or in the games team, whatever, and look at your team and see if there is someone from this other country, because realistically there will be no sprint elsewhere if no one from this other country organizes. So there needs to be someone from the global south willing to do this organization, and then I think it should be really encouraged, because it's easier also to have a focus in just one topic or one team work than a huge conference with so many different areas might be overwhelming.
Yeah, we have some kind of issue here in our mini DebConfs, because we did 3 mini DebConfs, but we are always doing mini DebConf for newcomers. Would you like to give a step more and start to do mini DebConfs more advanced, more to people really work and contributors to Debian? Because we feel that every year we need to make talks like what is Debian, how Debian was created, and something like that. And we have few talks about the advanced topics, and sometimes we don't have advanced topics because we don't have people to talk here. I don't know if you feel like the same in other countries, like in Japan, because okay, we have few developers, but even us can't do some more advanced or some sprint to really work. And I think for the case of Brazil, we really need help from people more experienced to come here and bring this experience to Brazil and say, okay, I'm going to have to do some advanced talk. I'm going really to work, not to come to here to talk what is Debian, how Debian was created. Because this kind of talk we are already doing here. We need people to bring experience to here to talk more advanced topics and to work. To sit and say, I'm working this team, I'm working with this, and you can join and see how is a really contribution to Debian, not just theoretically.
Yeah, I think we do have Brazilians then, and in each of those countries we do have a few. If there's one Debian developer so just pick this team. What is the area of action of this one developer? And here we do have, so my suggestion is next DebConf, just pick one topic. From all the Brazilian DGs, you could get one topic or one area of expertise of one of the local people and focus on that one topic. And then you would have a sprint. Let's say translation. If it's translation, then if we have a whole mini DebConf to just talk about translation, and it could go deeper into internationalization, then you could really get more involved in the core, even if the topic is translation. Or if it's packaging, then get what are the areas that people here are contributing to packaging, but more a work meeting than just newbies trying to attract newbies. But it needs to come from the local. Like, what are the local people doing? And pick one, start with one. And then maybe next year you choose another topic. And this way I think you could build your army of each of these different topic.
Cool. We have 9 minutes now, so.
Okay, so I wanted to first say thank you for trying to speak about this topic, because
Sure.
I think also it's important. I'm from Peru, and I would like to share first the experience in Peru is that we have one DD there, but I think he's not longer active anymore. But we used to have a community. We like several years ago, we used to have at least 2 events a year. It was not much, but we were having the same problems that you were mentioning, that the community it was mainly composed by people that are new to Debian. So every time we made an event that were not that continuous, was a bit hard to actually get into what we want to do. And I find the same experience from other communities that are not Debian. I'm also involved in open source projects, and I find the same problem, that it's hard to get into the details or what the advanced things we want to do. So I definitely think that the suggestion about like focusing in one thing may be a good step, and also like trying to hold monthly meetings is also a good idea. But I'm also curious about the reasonings that is behind this diversity, because even if I'm somehow beneficiated because I'm in the south of the world, because of this idea, I would like to know where does it come from, this idea of diversity. And so it would be maybe a good idea to document how can we know that this will impact the Debian community or any community in general. So that I would love to have. And also maybe what Sam was mentioning about like aligning those with the actual targets of DebConf for the Debian project itself is also a really good idea to try to focus on. Maybe those could be next steps.
Yeah. Somebody else? Son, you as DPL, how do you see the situation of help with, let me say, help people from outside Europe in North America with a lot of money to travel to this country? It's a problem because, like was said before, Debian has a limited budget. So I don't know how you think to deal with this.
I think it's clear to me that getting active Debian contributors who want to go to DebConf, the global DebConf, is a very high priority. And if the budget we're giving DebConf is not adequate to the task of substantially meeting that goal, then we should have a discussion about that. I think the mini DebConfs are a much more complicated question. I think that the mini DebConfs have arisen for a number of reasons that we haven't clearly articulated, some of which favor diversity and some of which actually go strongly against diversity, I suspect. And I think we need to have a conversation about why we're having mini DebConfs and what we expect to get out of them before we can do a good job of seeing whether we're aligning how we're spending money with those goals. I think once we understood the goals, spending money on travel is pretty much the most important thing we can do with our money, honestly. But I think I think there's some really touchy issues around that we've mostly ignored, and that are going to be pretty hard discussions to drive. And unfortunately, probably are going to be discussions that I personally don't have time to drive this year. If there's someone who has the communication skills to drive those discussions, who wants to talk to me about, figuring out how we can move that forward, I would be very interested. I'm just not sure. I can't do everything.
Sure. So we have 4 minutes yet. So, yeah, sure.
Someone spoken here about bringing locals when DebConfs happen, bringing locals to know more Debian, and I think it's quite really a good idea. Specifically, when DebConfs happen, people who already know Debian, I'm shaking.
No problem. Take it easy.
Like if you know who do what you do, who may work with you, if you have fun with them, you will feel much more comfortable and willing to, you will be feeling part of the community, so you will be much more willing to help. And I think that's quite a good idea. I think DebConf is an awesome event. The community is awesome, so people will, the globe, it will okay. Sorry, I don't know what to say.
Sure. Thanks for your words contribution. Anybody else? So I think we have to finish now. Thank you very much for coming. I hope this is just an initial debate about this topic. And you can have more discussion about that, more debate about that, and think about what some said about the importance, why we have many DebConfs and DebConf itself, and you can improve this debate with other ideas on the future. Thank you very much for coming.